Hi nerds, this is Booze with NerdFeed. We're here with Samurai Dan and Jillian. How are we doing today?
We're doing great.
Yeah, awesome. So Samurai Dan and Jillian, they're frequent convention guests. They do a lot of martial arts demonstrations, swordsmanship performances. They're always really cool. I'm a karate nerd, so how did you guys stumble into the convention scene? Where did you kind of get your start in conventions?
We teach traditional Japanese samurai arts, sword and empty hand, and had no idea what anime was, but we had several students that were big anime fans, and they talked us into doing a demo at a local anime con in Iowa City, Iowa. It was like 15 minutes from the front door of our dojo.
Oh, heck yeah.
And we went and did a sword demonstration there with Tommy Shigiri, the test cutting and stuff, and somebody from another convention in either Kansas City or Wichita was in the audience, one of the 10 people that came to watch the traditional martial arts exhibition. But he came and asked us if we would go to their city and do a demo. And I'm like, I would really love to, because we want to spread what we're doing, but we can't afford to drive 500 miles and do a demo. And he said, we'll pay you.
And that's incentive enough. Job's done.
Now here we are.
So, in the same vein of anime conventions, what are some of the reasons that you think that anime and martial arts correlate so well together?
Well, for so many animes, I mean, the characters and the architecture and the backgrounds and the drawing are all based off of historical Japanese martial arts, and so you already have a group of people that have some interest and fascination with traditional swordsmanship, with the empty hand controls, and with the culture, and being able to bring in bokken, wooden practice swords, and bring in the arts where they can actually live that part of the history and learn some of the traditional movements and just have a piece of that for themselves makes it really popular. I mean, we're all Dungeons and Dragons nerds and other stuff, and swords are cool. They're fun.
Obviously.
And for us, we teach martial arts that really peaked at about 1575.
Right.
And then the way of the sword kind of went away after Oda Nobunaga's troops used firearms and blew away Takeda Shingen's son's cavalry troops. And that kind of ended the serious period for Japanese sword combat.
Right.
So a lot of the things that I learned from my Japanese instructor of old martial artists and kenjutsu instructors and generals, like the only really famous female samurai general was Tomoe Gozen, and trying to find information on her 15 years ago was next to impossible.
Right.
But with the advent of the internet and anime being the rise of popularity of anime, where cosplaying and dressing up in those different characters and learning more about them, it became so mainstream, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
You can find information on these people on the internet, and it's just every once in a while I kind of cringe because they do a great job on the research. But every once in a while they get something that, they changed that for the show.
Right, right. A little bit of artistic liberties.
But it's a really neat connection that helps bring an ancient art forwards into the 21st century, which is good because that's the one I'm stuck in.
Right. So, did you two meet each other through the martial arts, or?
We re-met in martial arts. Years ago, I actually worked with her uncle.
Okay.
And turns out that I met her at a 4th of July party a long time ago, and I just remember because she was a brat. I was able, with therapy and time, to forget about meeting her. And then years later, I was teaching a kickboxing class at the University of Iowa, and one of my students had 2 nieces that were taking college classes, and he thought it was a good idea for these Midwest farm girls to learn self-defense, like they needed more violence in their lives. So he asked permission. At that time, I didn't have any girls that trained, and it wasn't a sexist thing. It was just I was teaching next to the weightlifting area at the field house, and it was the guys that showed up to do tough kickboxing, and they showed up and kind of set our class on its ear. And we started dating because she told me we were going to, and I was too afraid to say no. And then we got married the same way.
Well,
Hi.
You're so full of it.
Okay, but that was our first date. You did tell me I was taking you out.
In fairness,
For
we've been
Chinese food.
preparing for a seminar, and you know how you get lost in a project and you kind of forget to eat, drink, anything?
absolutely.
I have an addictive
We started at
personality.
7 a.m., and at 6 p.m., all we had was Mountain Dew.
oh, good.
And
It made typing more difficult.
we got to that point, and I just kind of looked at him and said, "You're taking me for food now."
Well, I mean, and now here we are. So it obviously wasn't all bad.
It was good food.
Well, there you go. There you go. So, what is the actual name of the swordsmanship style, the discipline, or the ryu?
The kenjutsu that we train in, we teach Teyamaru, which is Japanese military sword.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the kenjutsu techniques are predominantly from Shinkenjutsu, Shinkendo,
Okay.
which is an amalgamation of Shinkageru and about 4 other disciplines.
Right.
So I like to tell people that are into empty hand martial arts that it's kind of like the Junfan Jeet Kune Do
Okay.
of Japanese swordsmanship, but people look at me funny then.
You gotta be a martial arts nerd, I think.
And it helps.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit of Buddha head never hurts. So, what's your training regimen like when you're training for tanashigiri, for cutting, for things like that? Obviously, there's a lot that goes into preparation of the sword. But what are some of the preparations, like mental preparations, that you guys do before you do any sort of cutting?
It's a really in vogue answer for people who train with swords to talk about their meditation practices,
Sure.
and the purification rituals they go through, the 3 days if you're a swordsmith and you're going to make the blade, because that was part of Japanese history. But the honest truth, if you read the Hagakura and other Japanese samurai texts, like the Book of Five Rings,
Mm-hmm.
you do that, especially early on in your training, to acquire focus, because you have to shut out outside distractions. It's not a tunnel vision thing, but it's a remembering what you're doing. So because you're holding a piece of razor sharp steel in your hands, it's not just about honor and discipline, it's a safety thing. You
Absolutely.
can't afford to be paying attention to them eating cupcakes over there and me not having any because I have a sword in my hand, something bad might happen. So early on, we do a short meditation period at the beginning of each class. That's basically 3 very slow, long, deep breaths.
Sure.
As just, okay, this is what we're doing in class for you to shut out whatever happened before class. Your regimen at home is up to you.
Sure.
I used to meditate for about 25 to 30 minutes every morning. I wanted to go longer and be this amazing Zen master, but if I'm sitting still and being quiet for 30 minutes, I either fall asleep or 80s metal starts playing in my head. And that's not really meditation.
No, but it's nothing wrong with
Meditation
it.
by Ozzy Osbourne. It's just not working. But like for test cutting, the meditation part, we also do a tremendous amount of suburi, the sword swinging exercises. There was a traditional test cutting event in Japan called Senbon-giri. It was 1,000 cuts. So you're using the tatami mats, the straw mats, 1,000 clean cuts with a sword without a mistake. The preparation time to be able to do that was just unbelievable, and the concentrate, because if your concentration lags at all, you miss a cut.
Right.
I mean, it's akin to a basketball player shooting free throws.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up playing sports, and I was a disciplined free throw shooter, but there's no way I could do 1,000 free throws in a row without missing.
Right.
And cutting with a sword, the discipline to be able to do that, we practiced 1,000 cuts. In
Much
the air,
discipline.
spoken, yeah. Not always popular with new students
Yeah, well, that's
or the
okay.
wife.
I'm the one that led those drills. They hated me. You didn't make them do them.
It's because they got mad.
Hey, practice makes permanent, not perfect, but permanent. All right, the last question I have. What's the story on the pooch? Tell us about your pooch here.
This is Kiba. Kiba is an Akita, and Akitas are the largest Japanese Spitz breed. They were samurai dogs, have a history going back about 5,000 years. Kiba is a 9-month-old puppy. He is in training for a medical alert for diabetes.
Awesome.
And he is doing fantastic. He's a little tired right now. We just spent a couple hours out hiking the trails around Denver here, which was
I heard
awesome.
about that. Yeah, I'm jealous.
So, but our other two we had here with us last year, Naya and Kuma, were both seniors, and they both passed last year. So he's our new furball. We've helped train a couple others through the years for other people.
Cool.
But he'll actually be staying with us.
And since they're actually a big part of the samurai culture, almost every anime nerd is familiar with the story of Hachiko.
Mm-hmm.
And so he actually has his own panel at conventions.
That's awesome.
And he does here at this con. We bring all the attendees in, we put them in the seats, we close the doors, we pass out treat bowls so all the attendees take treats.
Puppy treats.
And then we take him off leash, and he just wanders the room and fleeces the attendees for all their treats, so they get to love on the puppy, and Jill has the lecture on the history of the breed and does a Q&A for people that are interested in dogs. And he is quite the diva.
Oh, yeah.
He's pretty, and he knows it.
Bit of a ham.
Oh,
Total
yeah.
ham.
He thinks
Yeah.
his name is Aw, because if you make that noise, he'll run to you.
Well, I mean, it fits. It's a good name.
It is. When people ask his name, I get a little leery of him. His name is Kiba. Kiba's Japanese for fang. And that doesn't seem like a real friendly, oh, put your hand out kind
Right,
of name.
obviously.
But it's actually a very common name for the Akita breed in Japan. And I understand it's also from Naruto. Because everyone's like, oh yeah, I know Kiba, he's in anime. I'm like, he is? That ruins his name.
You are at an anime convention, by the way.
I wondered, the costumes.
Yeah, that's what it is, really. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we'll look forward to following you guys on any social media that you'd like to plug.
Right now, we mostly try to stay current on Facebook,
Cool.
on our Samurai Dan and Jillian page. We do have a Twitter, but I need to recover the password to it.
Oh.
Kyle Aber talked us into it at a convention in New Orleans once, so they sat and did tech nerd things together
Oh, yeah, we
and
love
set up a
Kyle.
Twitter account and everything, and they were awesome and all enthused about it and put it in my name, and I haven't figured out how to answer my phone.
Well,
He has more Twitter posts just from being tagged as Cinnamon Bun Butt on Twitter. Carrie Savage, one of our awesome friend, voice actress, she met him, and he was about 20 pounds last fall as he was growing, and he has a almost triple curl for a tail that looks like a cinnamon bun.
awesome.
And so she was taking pictures of his tail and tweeting them with hashtag cinnamon bun butt, and it has...
Make it trend, guys.
Yeah.
Make it trend.
It's made the rounds.
Well, you can follow us. You can follow NerdFeed on Twitter, Facebook. We're on Vero. We also have a Patreon, YouTube, obviously. So check us out. And,
I've heard of that one. I got that reference.
Yes. And look forward to more nerdy content. Thanks so much. Bye.